So now, the best way to explain to you what I'm saying about how he went and he got Lot and converted Lot is to tell the story about another similitude that's told out of the Bible. Everybody's telling this story and they telling you that David grabbed a lion by the beard and he killed a lion and he killed a bear. All right. But that's not what that story is talking about. All right. It's a Jewish fable that they tell. All right. So we're going to explain that exactly what we said according to how Abraham or Abram went and converted Lot back. It tells that story again through that story about David and the lion and the bear. Right? Y'all just don't understand how to read the Bible, so y'all don't know what it's saying. All right, so we're going to tell that story right now. We're going to go to 1 Samuel chapter 17. And we're going to start at verse 34. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep. His father's sheep. David was a preacher, okay? His father's sheep, that's the people in his father's congregation. Jesse was a preacher. I told you, all the people in that line, all those people were preachers. They were preachers. They were teachers, prophets, okay? And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep. And there came a lion. A lion is one of the beasts of the field, okay? We always go here. Let's go again. Leviticus chapter 11. Leviticus 11 is telling you something. It's telling you about the animals you can eat. Eat, I told you, means to learn. All right? So the animals you can learn from. The animals are people. The people you learn from are the prophets. He's telling you the animals you can eat. These are the characteristics of the people you can learn from that are righteous. He tells you who the righteous are because they got certain characteristics. And he tells you who the unrighteous prophets are because they got certain characteristics. So we're going to start at Leviticus 11, verse 2. And it says, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, these are the beasts. We told you that the flocks of his pasture were men. Those beasts are men, okay? The beasts which ye shall eat. Eat means learn. So this is a prophet among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that ye shall eat. So he's telling you, parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed. Cloven parteth, that means divide. So he's talking about something that can rightly divide, just like Abraham was able to rightly divide. That's a righteous prophet. Abram was a righteous prophet. It says that those men were gold and silver. Those were top quality prophets that Abraham had circumcised, meaning he gave them the doctrine and they understood it. Chewing the cud, when you chew the cud, the stomach has several chambers. So it'll come out of the animal will regurgitate the food and then it'll go into a different chamber. Then regurgitate the food and then it'll go into a different chamber. That's precept upon precept. He's getting more and more information. He's researching and mulling over what he's saying because he wants to make sure that what he's going to be teaching, the meat, is not going to be defiled, right? But it talks about you can't eat the swine because the swine only has one stomach. So he's not able to take the information from chamber to chamber to ensure that it lines up precept upon precept. He looks at the thing, he says, I think it means this, and then he starts teaching it. That's why his meat, his understanding is abominable. That's what the Most High telling you. So he tells you the people, the prophets that can chew the cud and have cloven feet, meaning they can rightly divide, those are the ones you want to learn from. But then he goes to verse 27 and he tells you about a different type of prophet. Verse 27. And whatsoever goeth upon his paws, a lion has paws and a bear has paws. So he's talking about a prophet who's one of the beasts of the field. All right. Paws tear flesh. All right. And those predators, they strangle. Okay. He told you about different types of birds and all that stuff. The birds are the fowls of the air, meaning those predator birds like eagles and hogs and stuff. Like he said, you can't eat from them. All right. Because they're going to tear your flesh. All right. The Most High said he wants his offerings. You're the offering. All right. The camel is you. Excuse me. The sheep is you. The sheep is one of the beasts that the Most High will accept. It has to be without blemish. If you learning from the beasts of the field who have paws tear the flesh. They eat the sheep. Those predators, they strangle. They tear the flesh. Flesh being torn means it's blemished. The Most High say he won't accept an offering that has blemish. Y'all understand that? So you can't learn from the beast of the field. That's what David is talking about. But we're going to read verse 27. And whatsoever goes upon his paws among all manner of beasts that go on all fours, those are unclean unto you. Whoso touches their carcass is body. All right. Body is the church. The body is the church. All right. So if you touch their church, shall be unclean until even. So you're going to be unclean until even. You ain't going to have no understanding. Even, dark, night, ignorance. All right. Y'all understand that? So it's telling you something. If you know what these words mean, you can decipher what it's saying. All right. So that story about David with this lion and this bear is actually talking about that lion and the bear are prophets that took his sheep. So we're going to go back to the story of David and this bear and this lion. We'll start over again. And David, verse 34. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep. And there came a lion, one of those prophets who tears flesh, and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. So they took one of his congregants. Y'all see that? And I went out after him and smote him. So just like Abraham smote them with that word, he smote that lion. Okay, with that word. And it says, and delivered it out of his mouth. He took his congregant. The mouth is the word, okay? That particular lion's word, those lies that got his congregant caught up. He took his congregant out of those lies when he smote him, all right? And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard. Beard is a garment. You go to Genesis 25:25. We'll read it right quick so that you can get what the beard is. All right. Genesis chapter 25, verse 25. And the first is talking about Esau and Jacob. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment. Okay, hair is a garment. That's what it's telling you. And they called his name Esau. If you go to Job 29, it's going to tell you what a garment is. All right. Job 29 and 14. Verse 14. I put on righteousness and it clothed me. Okay, so righteousness is a doctrine. All right. So he's clothed with a doctrine. So something you put on that clothes you is a doctrine. My judgment, doctrine, was as a robe. Okay. Robe, you put on a robe. You wear. It's a garment. And a diadem. A diadem is a crown. That's something that you wear. If you go to Isaiah 61, it's saying the same thing. Isaiah 61, verse 10. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God, for he has clothed me with the garments. Garment means doctrine of salvation, the doctrines of salvation, and has covered me. That's covering. With the robe, that's a doctrine of righteousness. Righteousness is a doctrine. As a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments. Ornaments are something that you wear. And as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. Jewels are precious stones. Precious stones are men. Okay? And doctrine. Stone means doctrine and stone means men. All right? So now, so you have an understanding of what it's talking about in this story with David and this lion and this bear. I started verse 35. And I went out after him, his congregant, and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. So he went and he preached to his congregant. And when he arose against me, he talking about that lion, I caught him by his beard. His beard is his doctrine. We just told you. Esau had a red and hairy garment. He came out like a red and hairy garment. A garment is a doctrine. We showed you that in Job and in Isaiah. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him, preached to him, and slew him. Slew means convert. All right. Slew means convert. When you go to Romans 6:6, it tells you when you kill something, it means you change it, you convert it. All right. It converts. All right. Kill means like killing the old man. That doctrine that's in you, that carnal doctrine that's in you. All right. Verse 36, thy servant slew both the lion and the bear. It didn't say that he killed the lion and the bear with his bare hands like they teaching. It's saying he converted those beasts of the field. He converted them to his doctrine, just like Abraham did. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. So that's what the story of David, the lion and the bear is talking about. It ain't talking about David killing a lion or David killing a bear like these people teaching you. That stuff's outrageous. If a man grabs a male lion by his mane, that male lion is going to kill him. You cannot defeat a male lion with a mane. And I know they use this example. Some man was walking a trail up in Colorado or something, and a mountain lion came after him, and he was able to choke the mountain lion to death. Okay, I get it. The mountain lion ain't got no mane. All right? That mountain lion ain't the size of one of those male lions that they call the king of the jungle out there in Africa. All right? Because if that lion came at that man on that trail, that man would have been eaten. Trust me. So don't believe all of these lies and this foolishness. They're trying to, well, maybe it could be like this. It can happen if this. No, it's not talking about an actual lion. It's talking about one of those beasts of the field. Okay. So, all right. Eat means to learn. Give you the understanding. We're going to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Verse 1. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. Now listen what Paul says. I have fed you milk and not with meat. He's talking about feeding, eating. Eating means learn. He's teaching them something, all right? I have fed you milk and not meat. He could only give them the carnal part. He couldn't give them the understanding of the spiritual. For hitherto ye were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able. So he's telling you he had the toughest time trying to make them people understand the spiritual, because they were stuck on carnal. Just like most of the people today. We're trying to explain what these similitudes mean, but they're listening primarily to their preachers and they don't understand it. All right. Some of them don't know how important it is, but if they don't understand the spiritual, you can't get the kingdom. That's what Christ said. All right. So let's get this thing with about these lions, why you can't be following a lion, because the lion gonna tear the flesh. The Most High ain't accepting any offerings that's torn by the beasts of the field. We're gonna go to Nahum chapter 2. We're gonna start at verse 11. Where is the dwelling of the lions? We're telling you, the lions are the beasts of the field. They're the ones that wear the paws. We told you in Leviticus 11, you cannot learn from something that's got paws. You can't eat meat that has paws. And the feeding place of the young lions, where the lion, even the old lion, walked, and the lions wept, and none made them afraid. The lion did tear in pieces enough for his whelps, and strangled for his lioness. Lioness is a female. A woman is a doctrine. It's talking about he strangling the people with his doctrine. The scriptures say you can't eat things strangled. All right, we'll get in a second. And filled his holes, I told you, holes, dwellings, den, hole, cave, slime pits. The Most High called churches or congregations dwelling places. Holes is a dwelling place for that lion. That's a den. And filled his holes with prey. The prey is the people, right? And his den with ravens. So he's tearing that flesh. Those are the people in those dens, in those churches. I know y'all see that. All right. So we already showed you that the sheep were people. That's what you offer on the altar to the Most High. You got to offer yourself when you kill the old man. The altar is the word. All right. So now, we told you that the Most High say he ain't accepting no offerings that's blemished. We're going to go to Leviticus 22, verse 18. Speak unto Aaron and to his sons and unto all the children of Israel, and say unto them, whatsoever he be of the house of Israel, or the strangers of Israel, that will offer his oblation for all his vows, and for all his free will offerings, which they will offer unto the Lord for a burnt offering. Ye shall offer at your own will a male without blemish. See there? Your own free will. Again, we're not forcing anything on anybody. You got to get it for yourself. You got to believe on your own. Right? Of the beeves, that's like cows. Of the sheep. Again, this is remember he said that these were lawful things that you can eat. This is righteous offerings. All right? Of the beeves, of the sheep, or of the goats. All right? But whatsoever hath a blemish, that shall ye not offer, for it shall not be accepted for you. So he's telling you, if you have been torn, your flesh has been torn by the beast of the field, he's not accepting you. So if you believing in those doctrines, in those holes, those churches of those beasts of the field, the Most High don't want you. All right? The Most High does not accept you. All right? So now, John 6 and 63, because I said that stuff that was coming out of his mouth, all right, was the word. So we're going to go to John 6 and get you what those words of his mouth were when he took that congregant out of the mouth of that lion. We're going to go to John 6 and verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. So he's telling you the spiritual doctrine going to change you. That the carnal doctrine ain't going to profit you anything. The words that I speak unto you, Remember, he took him out of that lion's mouth. That's the word coming out of his mouth. They are spirit and they are life. So Christ is telling you the words that he's given you, that's the spiritual understanding. If you know what the words mean spiritually, you can get the key. All right. So now, and we said that he killed that lion and he killed that bear. I told you it meant convert. So we're going to go to Romans chapter 6. We're going to start at verse 1. So you can get an explanation of what we're doing whenever when we kill something. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? So Paul is saying, are you supposed to continue in sin, whether you know it or not? The sin is the carnal understanding. So that grace, which is the spiritual understanding, may abound. All right. He's saying, God forbid. God forbid translates to no. Okay. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? All right. He's telling you ain't going to be doing that carnal law no more. Now, know ye not that so many of us were baptized into Jesus Christ? So that means we followed Christ's example, right? And were baptized into his death. So just like Christ died, right? And then he was resurrected in the spirit. When it's saying he resurrected, it's talking about his word lives on. That's the spirit. That's the spirit. Remember we say the spirit quickeneth. His words, that's the spirit. All right. You got to understand. Don't focus on, well, he rose up and his spirit was walking around and that. Don't get caught up in that. The words are the spirit. He lives because his word lives. All right. So it says, know ye not that so many of us were baptized into Christ? We follow his example into Jesus Christ. We follow his example and were baptized into his death. We did the same thing he did, but we did it spiritually. We stopped believing the lies of the carnal understanding. That's what it's telling you. Therefore, we are buried with him by baptism. We baptized with the word. Okay. The word, the water is the word. All right. That like as Christ was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father. The glory is the understanding. That's the light. Remember, glory is light. All right. Even so we also should walk in newness of life. So once we get the understanding, we are new creatures, right? So we not like our old carnal self. We start believing in the spiritual. All right. The spirit is the word. All right. Verse 5. For if we were planted together in the likeness of his death, so if we do the same thing, follow his example, we should also be in the likeness of his resurrection. We're going to be Christ-like. We're going to be believing the spiritual understanding. That's what this is talking about. Knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him. So it's telling you, it's killing by converting, you're killing the old man and the body of sin. The church of sin is the carnal understanding. Body means church. That the body of sin, that the carnal church, carnal understanding might be destroyed. That henceforth we should not serve sin. We're not going to be doing the carnal law anymore. All right, that's what that means. So now you got the understanding of what it's talking about with David, the lion, and the bear. David did not kill a lion with his bare hand, nor a bear. All right. He converted those beasts of the field to his way of thinking, which was the spiritual understanding. All right. Y'all don't understand, but before Moses came along, we were following the spiritual law. All right. Then the Most High had to give us the carnal law coming out of Egypt because the people was believing all them superstitions and such. All right. But the people took that and they saw the power in it, and so they made that the law. till Christ came and gave the people the understanding so that we could go back to the spiritual. Y'all need to watch a lot of those classes that we got, and you'll get the background of what I'm saying. But before the carnal law, we were following the spiritual law. We was following, didn't I tell you? I showed you in Galatians, Jerusalem, which is the mother of us all. All right, that was the first law, the spiritual understanding. She is free. The bondwoman was Hagar. She's from Egypt. Egypt is captivity. That's the doctrine of captivity, the carnal. Sarah was the free woman. Free means spiritual. All right. So it's talking carnal versus spiritual. It's the duality of what this thing is all about. You got to reject the carnal and you got to convert to the spiritual. That's what it's talking about. All right. The story of David taking the sheep out of the lion's mouth tells you he redeemed his follower after he was tricked into believing another doctrine. A lion and a bear are beasts of the field. That's the Pharisees. We got modern day lions and bears around here, and they got all these people in those churches.